Welcome back. In today's video, we are going to look at how to use the context API in Next.js 13, and we will use it in the shopping cart project, so how it can be implemented in your project. So in the first place, we are going to look at why do we need the context API and what is context API. But to understand the context API, we need to know the problem it is solving. So context API is solving the problem of prop drilling. So let's just look at what is prop drilling. So we know very well up to this point that if you have your Next.js 13 project, you may have something like this. You have the app. So let's say you have the entire app. So let me just try to imitate the entire app here. So you have the entire app which has different pages. So let's put here like different pages. You can have here a page. Okay, you can have another page here, and you can have even another page here. So let's say you have the about. Let's just say you have the home page. So you have the home. Okay, you have the home page, and here you have the about, and then let's have another page, maybe the cart. Okay, so you can have your app can have different pages, and then you find that you have many components. Down the road you may find you have very many components. Let's say you have in the app, in the home page, you're having the products component, and then down you have a child, which is the product, and then you have some others like the navbar. So you can find you have the app and it has so many. Let's see, you have the products component, and then down here you can also have a single product component, and then you can have maybe the header. Okay, and by the way, to understand this, let's look at our app. I already have some app running. It is not having many things, but it is just to demonstrate what you're going to do. So I have the app here, and simply has 2 or 3 pages. It has the home page, which is the page, and in the page I'm having the products. Okay, let's just look at the app here. It is already running. So here this is the home page, and I have a list of products. Okay, I have a list of products here, and then I have the about, which is not having anything here much. Okay, and then I have the cart page here. So this is just having the dummy data. This data is all hard-coded. It is not coming from anywhere, just like dummy data. We are going to feed it with the actual data in a minute. Okay, so going back to the home page. Okay, going back to the home page here, just like that. So what you are saying, you have this page. So you have a number of pages. We have the home page, which is having these products, and then you can have a single product. Okay, and then you can also have like the cart, which is another page, which also has these the cart product. Okay, so you find that you have a number of pages, and then these pages have components. Now, how do we normally bring data into the app? So what we normally is, when we are bringing data into the app, we have to fetch it, like for instance, in the big container, which is the home. Okay, so you fetch it into the home after bringing the data here. So let's say you bring the data up to this point here. So after you bring the data into the home page, you have to send it via props. So you start sending it via props. You start sending this via prop until it reaches the final component. Okay, so you find you have all this. Now you have again to fetch if you wanted to give the header. Let's say the header is in some other page, like it is in the layout. You can find the header is this side, and you also have to find if you want to have access to products. You have again to fetch data into this side. So we have two problems. Let me first outline here the problems we are facing currently in Next.js. One, so you find that you have multiple fetching, for instance, of products. Okay, so you can find you have multiple fetching of products. If to make you understand this, multiple fetching of products, let me just try to organize this. Okay, just move them a bit here. So we have multiple fetching. So you fetch data in different places so that you can give data to all these pages. So if you wanted some products in the cart, if you wanted products in the about, you would have to do multiple fetching of products, and this is inefficient. So which one this one leads to inefficient. Okay, this is inefficient. Okay, so multiple fetching of products is inefficient. The second problem we have, if you want to send data to the children like these ones, we have to move via props, and this is the problem we normally call prop drilling. Okay, so in prop drilling you keep on sending props, even including the components that did not use or did not need the products themselves, because when you send the data into the products, itself does not need the data, but that's why it has to pass. The data has to go through the products to reach the product, but basically we could use the data only inside the product component. Okay, so that are some of the problems. We have two major problems that we have always. So what always we need, we can have a sort of a separate store. So if I'm to again illustrate here, so if this is our app, okay, so we can have a separate store here. We can have a separate store. Okay, so we can have this separate store here, and in this store, which is separate from the app, so that if any of these components need data, let's say the product needs data, we could simply go here and we get the data. And if we want it in the header, we do the same thing. Let me first draw here an arrow to demonstrate. So if you want data here, we can send it. If we want data here in this, we can send it. So you find that there is this store that is here, and it is separate from the app, that if you need any data inside any of your pages or components, you simply get it from here rather than passing it through the props. So we have been looking at a mechanism of passing data from one component to another using the props, and we said this one causes a problem called prop drilling. Okay, so we are going to look at another method of storing data globally. Okay, so here this is a global, okay, a global data store. Okay, meaning that any of the pages can access it at any time. Okay, if you find any of these pages needs the data, they can actually get this data direct from the store. Okay, all these pages here, they can simply get the data from the store. You can supply this data direct to this page or individual component without passing any props or without you going through any component that does not need that data at that point. Okay, and we can achieve that using the context API. Okay, so we have context API. It is not the only one to do global state management in React. Okay, we have others like Redux. Okay, we have Redux and so many other tools, third-party tools that handle global state management. But we are going to look at context API simply because it is somehow easy to understand compared to others. Okay, so we are going to use what we call context API. So this data, we store it in the context, and then wherever we need it in any place, then we can get it. Okay, so how do we start? So I wrote here a blog to help you follow or to keep on reminding yourself. So I will put this link in the description so that you can actually have access to this page. So if you look at this page, basically what I was explaining, it is how to use the context API in React, but you are going to be using it as a reference. So I talked about the problem of prop drilling, and also the problem is here very well stated. The process of passing props through multiple levels of components, even when intermediate components do not require those props. Okay, so this can lead to code complexity, reduced maintainability, and other inefficiencies. So what is context? So the context API, as we said, is a global state. So it's a feature provided by React that allows us to share data between components without the need of explicit prop passing. It provides a way to create a global state. So you can see here, there is global state, accessible to any component within a specific context. Okay, so a context API eliminates the need for prop drilling and simplify the process of sharing data across components. Okay, so want to understand how to create the context. By the way, it took me time to understand the global state management and even the context API. When they say it is easy, it is not that easy. Okay, context API or global state management it has never been easy in React. So you have to, I took my time to create this so that it can be very easy for you to digest. If I want you to understand that there are 4 steps that you need to remember, okay? There are 4 steps you need to remember when you are creating the context, or if you want to use the context API. So there are 4 steps, and if you can remember these 4 steps, the first one is create the context, create the provider, then create the use context, and then consume the context. If you can remember those 4 steps, in fact, you are going to see that there are like 5 steps. There is like one more here that is silent, but whereby you have to integrate the context. Okay, so there is integrate the context, and then we can use the context. So in other words, after here, we are going to first create like a file here. We create our context, and then after that, we have to integrate this context we have created. We create it or we integrate it in the uppermost component. So for instance, if this one can be in Next.js, the layout page. So this one, this can be this page here. This one can be the layout. Okay, so this one can be layout.js. So we know that in Next.js 13, the uppermost or the most outside component, if you want to share across things in the whole entire app, it is inside here in the layout. Okay, so this is so we have to integrate the context to the layout so that this data is accessible throughout the whole entire app. Okay, so let's see first of all what we are going to do. So the context, as we said, I'm going to try to move up here so that I can explain some other concept. So what is specifically, what are we going to be here trying to get here? Which context are we sharing, or what are we sharing between these pages? So as we said, it solves two problems. The first one is inefficiencies that we have been seeing through data fetching. So we want to fetch data in one place, and then we give the entire app, okay, access to this data, so that if I want it in the home page, I can do it. If I want it on the products page, I can access them. If I want them on the cart page, I can still access them. So the first state here we are going to be sharing, so let's look at the state that we are going to be sharing. The first one is products. Okay, so we are going to be managing products. So we'll fetch products and we make them accessible globally. Okay, we have been carrying these products in each individual pages. So you find here on the home page, on about page, on other pages, you find you are fetching them within that page. But right now, we want to fetch them once, we put them in a global state, and then we start accessing them from there. That is the first thing. Two, okay, so we can also access when the data is loading. That is something that is very common. So sometimes the data is being fetched, okay, so sometimes the data is being fetched. So as the data is being fetched, we want to show the loading indicator. Okay, we want to show, is the data loading or it has already been done. You have to show so we have also to know at any point in time as we are fetching products or data, is it loading or it has already fetched. So this loading indicator can also we can also keep it globally throughout the whole app, so that we keep knowing where the data is being fetched, or it has already finished fetching the data. So the loading indicator is very important, and the fact that you are going to be fetching on the client side. Another next thing is, for instance, the cart. Okay, so another thing we want is the cart. So you might be asking why the cart, but let me explain. So the cart here, the shopping cart is what I'm referring to. You see, we need it here in the header to know the number of items. Okay, we need it here in the header to know the number of items here. So that is one instance why you need the cart. So in this component you need, and even in the cart page itself, you need access to the cart items. And so it makes us to have a need to have them globally. In the future, if you have big app, you can have the context having a lot of things, like you have to know also, for instance, users and blah blah. So you can have a lot of context. Not you can create only one. We are going to look at how to create a cart context, but you can have a user context, a product context. You can have a lot of context if you want. Okay, you can have a lot of states you can manage globally. It's not just only that you're going to have only it on the cart. I want to show you how you can do for the cart, but it will also give you that you can actually manage any data or any state you can manage it in your application. What is users, what is products, what is cart, or anything else that you would want to. It can be the steps, it can be anything that you can actually manage globally. Okay, so specifically in this, we are going to be looking at three things. So as we said, the most important steps are these ones. Okay, so the first thing is the step number one is to create the context. Okay, so we use the create context hook from we can use this create context hook from React still that can give us that we can create the context. Okay, the second thing is you can create a provider using this context. So you can say use the context provider. So this context we have created here, it can help us create the provider. So the provider is that guy who is actually have the ability to share data globally. Is the guy who is giving us what is going to be shared globally. It then sets the initial states and what kind of stuff. So those ones are done inside the this provider. So we said we are going to use the this component to wrap the components that need access to the context. Okay, and this is where we create different states that we want to expose globally, such as products, loading, and the cart. Okay, and then we also pass these states as the values in the context provider. So the next is create the use context. Now here this hook is to help us use the context. So you can use this use context hook to access the context data in any component. And lastly, is consuming the context in the parent. So we can use the context data in any of the components we want, such as the rendering products pages, so the indicators, and so many other things. Okay, so let's understand it in the concept. Let's understand it in the concept of the shopping cart project. So before, let me first tour you what I'm having. So on the first, we have on top here the navbar. So I'm just going to show you the navbar component. So if you just go here in the components, so I have here the components, I have the navbar, and it's simple. It's having this my shop link, is having these two links here, and also having the cart. So this is the most important one, the cart page, and we also need to show here as it is updating, we need to show this. Okay, so we have the cart here showing the number of items in the cart in the header, so we need also to show that. The another thing I have is this UI, these products here. So these products are inside the page. Okay, so if you just come to the home page, I have this section with products. I have this header list of products, and then you can see I'm manually putting these products manually from this from where. So there is a single product which is here. There is no anything I've done like props or anything. Okay, so but what I have right now is that in the home page I'm having all these products that we are going to see how we are going to fetch data up to this point. Okay, another page I have is the about page. I don't think you need even to see this about page, but I have the about page here. As you can see, it is a simple page. Okay, and I'm just going to actually make this one a section so it can have some padding. So I have this, which is have the about page and some row, and this is the page here. And finally I have the cart page, and the cart page is rendering the cart products. So I have another page here which is the cart. Okay, so I have this here. It is also having the cart, and it is rendering these cart product. And if you look at the cart product, it is here having the cart image, it has the title, it has the remove button, and it has this subtotal container, also this div having a subtotal, and that is this single piece here. and then we have also this the whole entire cart page, which is let me show you. The entire cart page is here. Okay, it has the products, and then it has the total card, which is showing right here on the corner. Okay, so that is basically the what you're having right now. So the first thing always is to first get these products, to fetch the products. Okay, so we already have an API endpoint that is fetching the products. If you still have any problems with fetching the products or fetching data in your Next.js 13, please watch go to my channel and watch data fetching tutorial, and you get to know how you can fetch data. But anyways, in this you create a folder called API, and since you want to fetch products, I've created inside the API, I created there the products folder again inside the API folder. Then inside the products folder, I created the route.js. Then inside this route.js, I have an endpoint, which is here the get. Okay, so this get, this is by the way how you define the get endpoint. So you must make it just like this. So I have export async function get, and I'm having a try catch block here, a simple one that is fetching data from this API endpoint. So I have an API endpoint here, which is the fake store, by the way. This one you can also play around with it. It is this fake store API I'm using. So I'm just using a try, get the response, then I have the products back here from the response, and after getting the products, then I expose them like this. So if you go to this API endpoint, if I'm to duplicate, let me duplicate what have I done. Let me unpin this. I want to duplicate. So here I want to go to API stock products, just that. So we can check, and you can see data is being fetched. Okay, data is being fetched, and right now I'm having a limit. If you check in the endpoint, it has a limit of 5. Okay, you can go ahead and put any number here, and this endpoint I got it under the fake API, which is this one. Okay, so at this point we have the data being present in the API route. Okay, so how do we get this data into the context? First of all, I'm just going to create the context. Now it depends how you want to create the context. Really, whether you want to make it a component, it will still work. Okay, I can just come here in the components, and I can just create the file. It will still work if I create the cart context. If I come here and I say cart context, but you can also create it in the utils or the lib, any other place. But let me just create make it a component so that you can see that it's also very possible to use it as a component. So I can name it as a JSX. Okay, so the first thing, as we said, there are 4 steps. The first one is actually creating the context. Okay, so step number 1 is to create the context. Okay, step number 1 is to create the context, and you simply just say cat context. So I'm just say const, for instance, cat you should just make it capital, cat context, okay, is equal to use, okay, use context, okay, from React. So you must import this on top here. Let me reduce it. So we have here this cat context is equal to use context, as simple as this. So this one creates the context. So let me just put here step number 1, okay, which was saying create the context. I want you to have these steps in the head. The first one is to create the context, as simple as that. Step number 2 is to create the provider. Okay, so step number 2. And by the way, when we create a context, don't forget to export this context. Okay, if you just check here, it is in the steps here. Okay, I put there, so you can create a file or you can create a component, it doesn't matter. Create a context object, that is create context. You can use the, as we said, you can use the React create context, and after that you have to export the context. As you can see here, export default context, so you have to create and export it. Okay, so you can just say here down, export default, so I can say export default and cut context. And really, even if you don't export it as a default, it doesn't actually matter. So you can just say export const. Okay, I can just simply export it, create it and export it at the same time, and I would have saved more lines here. So that is the step number one. Step number two, okay, step number two is we can share, we can create the provider. Okay, create the provider, and a provider, as you can see, all these ones are functions. Even a provider is simply a function. Okay, if you just look here, step number two, create the provider using the context. So we use that context to create the provider, because the provider is the one which will hold the actual states. So to create, you have to create like these three states. Okay, so the provider is the one which can have that, and it is just a function which takes in children, and then it returns, okay, it returns the provider. So we can just come here and we say export, okay, export function, and you can give it any name. You just say cat provider. Okay, cat provider, and this function, it takes in children, and these children represent any other component which want to use the state that we are sharing globally. So this provider is very important because it is this provider that actually holds the state, and this one, its purpose is to simply return, okay, its purpose is to simply return the so you have context. We already have cat context, cat, because we use the cat context to create the provider. So it is this dot provider, so just like that. Okay, so it's a function which takes in the children, and then it can render here the children. Okay, and then this provider is actually the one which will hold the state. So for instance, we can say products, and we can say set products. Okay, and we can just say use state from also React, and by default we can have it as an empty array, just like that. And this is just how simply how you create the cat provider. The provider, its purpose, one is to hold the state. Two, it is actually to pass the state to the children, or to be able to share the state, now expose the state. So it creates the state and exposes that state so it can be used elsewhere. And if you see how it uses the state or exposes the state, you see you can first create all the things you want to share. Here, for instance, we are going to see there are so many things we want to share, but you see you can set the products, and then after that you can actually expose these products here. Okay, you can have those products actually as the value in the provider. Now it might just seem complicated, but remember, whatever you create here, you want to expose it globally so that it can be used by other people. Okay, so for instance, these products we would want to expose them globally to be used by, for instance, the home page or any other page which wants them. Okay, so here on the provider, we create a prop of value. Now whatever you put inside the value here is what is going to end up as shared across entire place. Okay, so for instance, products, we can't just share them here, and if you want to share them here, you can simply say now products, as simple as that. So you put value, and whatever you put in the value is what you are willing to share across with other people or other components. So just only saying doing this one gives the capacity to actually share the products now across the whole entire app. Okay, so moving on to another step is the step whereby you create the use context hook to help us use the context. Okay, so you can still create another function and you also export it. Okay, so you can also say export function, and we in this function we are just going to create the context. Let me show here somewhere where we have this function very well here. A minute. Okay, so we have it here. So it is a function called use cut. Okay, if you want to this, because we are creating the cut, this whole is a cut context, we have to create another function. Okay, so we can create down here step number 3. Step number 3, create the use context hook. Use context hook. So this one is to be able to allow us to access this provider in any place we want. Okay, so you can just say it's also a function. So you can say export const, okay, function, and this function you can call it use cut. Okay, you can call it use cut, export, you don't need const, export function. Okay, we can export this function, and what this function is doing is, if you look at this, is just simply getting the context and returning this context. Okay, so you can simply just create inside here just like that. You can say use the use context hook to access the context data. We don't need to use this React. Just say use context, and you must pass in. So you create the context, whether you call it context or whether you create it as data, it doesn't matter. But this is the context you want to share across. Okay, so this name here, context, shouldn't confuse you of what it is, but specifically is the data we are actually sharing across. This is what the data is. So the context is equal to use context, and then this use context is supposed to be got from React. Let me just go and see if I have it on top here. Use context is there. Okay, I don't know why it created it like this. I just going to see from React, const from React. I don't know what is happening. Const, it is import. Okay, just use context, use state. Okay, and this one is create context. Okay, it is called it is create context. We create here, not use. So we have 3 hooks, so 2 hooks that are important. The first one is create context, which is used to create the context here. The second one is use context, which is actually helping us to use the context here. Okay, and then we can return this context data, and you can see it is actually the data that we are talking about. So, and the last one is now to integrate. Okay, so the last one is to integrate. And by the way, speaking of this, on top here, let's put use client. Since we are using a lot of hooks, it has to be use client. Now if you go down in the integration part, so it will integrate the provider. You must go in the uppermost component, and if it was React, this is the app.js, but for us is in the layout, and then you have to put this cat provider, which is actually having the data. Okay, so I'm just going to go, and this is the part I was saying that is step number 4. So here step number 4 is integrate the cat provider that we have created in the uppermost component. Okay, and in this case, in Next.js, the layout page is the uppermost component where everything can be shared. So on top here, before this, we can just come here and we wrap the children inside the body. We can wrap it inside that. Okay, so you can have here the wrapper as cat provider. Okay, so you can have the cat provider. Okay, and it is components cat provider, I guess, and not cat product. Be careful, provider. Okay, just like that, and then inside we can put everything that we are rendering, just like that. Okay, inside the cat provider, let me remove this cat product here. So just simply wrapping this. Okay, that means now the provider is having data. Remember, when we created this provider here, it is the provider which is actually having the data. You see, we gave it the data, so the data now is accessible throughout the whole entire app. Okay, it is now possible that we have all our data throughout the entire app. Okay, so if I just come here, let me go to the layout. So the data is now wrapped throughout the whole entire app. Now if we want to use it, which is the last step, is using the context in any app. Okay, so you see, using the context in any other component you want, you simply actually use the use cat hook that we just created by ourselves. So let me show you how what I mean. So for instance, in the home page, we will need the products. Okay, I would come here inside here, and I would say const, and I know that products exist in the global state. Remember, whatever you expose here, let me take you in a second. Whatever you expose here in the value here will be globally accessible now, anywhere you want. So it means if I go in the page here and I say const product, I can get these ones from use. You said use cat, so use cat. Okay, could say use cat here, and I know they are there, so just let me call this one, and you can see we are getting the use cat here. Okay, yeah, use cat from the cat context. So I have the products here, so I can just now go ahead and do the mapping. But let's just console.log products. Okay, let's just say console.log products, and we see right now it should show us an empty thing. Let's see if we don't have any errors so far. Let me go back to route 3000, and we see if we have like any errors so far. And you realize we are having the app running in two sides. Okay, I expect to have like one problem. Okay, attempt to call use contact from the server, but use cat is on the client. It is not possible to invoke a client function on the server. Okay, so just come in the home, which is the page, and on top you just see use client, as simple as that. Just say use client, and let's see if the problem is sorted. Okay, so it seems everything is looking normal. I'm just going to say F12 to go to the console and see if I can really see the console that we did. Okay, let me refresh, and you can see here page on line 8 we have an empty array. Okay, we have an empty array. Are you seeing that, guys? So in this you can see this here we have it on line, actually on line 8 is telling us it is an empty array. Okay, so let's fetch some data and we put in the state. So how do we fetch the data here? Remember, we are on the client side. Okay, so let me just go back in this. So we can fetch the data here and we set it here using the use effect. So I can just say use effect hook. So we can use the use effect hook from React. Remember, this one takes in, it is a function itself. Okay, and then here it also takes the array of dependencies. Okay, so I'm just going to say here inside here, it just a function takes in two things. It takes in a function, the use effect, it takes in a function, and then the array of dependencies. The array of dependencies, it gives the one that should trigger the reloading again. So I'm just going to come here and say, so you're going to create a function. We can come here and create a function. I'm not going to waste much time. I have this function, I did it here. Okay, so you can just go and do this function that is fetching the products, and from the endpoint that we created earlier on in this video. So let me just show you. So it is creating this async function. Okay, fetch products. Now this function that is fetching product is also doing the try catch. Okay, I know you are familiar with this. I don't need the loading right now. Okay, so we have response is equal await fetch. Now remember, this is the route we have. We are fetching the products. We tested it here. I can just say duplicate. Here we have API products. We all tested this endpoint and is working properly, and it is the endpoint that we are using here to fetch the data. Okay, or you can replace it with your own endpoint. Actually, you could try to fetch the actual data that I fetched in the other endpoint in this API get. You could actually fetch it here. Okay, but I wanted to show you the best way of how data moves in Next.js 13. Always data comes and it lands in the API route. So now after that, we can get the products data, await product response.json, and after that we can set the products with the products data, and we don't need the loading right now. So now that means that if we do this, the data has been now set. By the way, don't forget to run the function, and the use effect means that the function will run on the upload. So when we reload the page, it will trigger this function. This function will fetch the products. After fetching the products, it will set them here in the state, and then this provider will provide them into the whole app, and then we should be able to access them wherever we want them. So let's just reload the page. Actually, it is reloading itself. It will take some time. And wow, so we have 5 products here. Look at that. We have 5 products on the page. Look at that. We are fetching in one place, and we have all the products here. Okay, we have all the products here, and now it means we can actually loop through this. Okay, we can loop through these products, and let me just do that very quickly. So in the page, I have these products right now. I can go ahead and map. So let me remove this. Okay, so if I just do this and I cut this and I say products, okay, dot map, okay, dot map, and in the map we have a single product. Okay, and let me just do this, and just going to return. Okay, return. So let's return this component, and the what you want to give this component. So here we can just use product.id, so we can just give it a key. So I will give this a key, which is product.id. And by the way, you should make sure that on the ID is present on your product here. Okay, and then next, after that, the product. So let's go ahead and pass the data. So we need the data also. So the data is equal to the product itself. So remember, all the data we want is inside this product, and we are passing it into this component. So just go down in the product, accept the data. Okay, and then we have the image. Let's look at what the image is being named here to understand. So we have category, description, and we have image. Okay, so we have this image. Now just come here, and of course we will have one problem, but let's just first put our image here. It's going to be product, okay, dot image, and then this one we can just make it a title. Let me see if it is the title, description, and I think we're already having that problem, but let me just check here. So we have the title. Okay, we have the title. We can also make the title to be the alt tag, always product dot title, and actually it's not product, it is data. Okay, the prop is data. Sorry guys, make sure you're using the actual things. Oh, how did we get to this? This is data dot image, sorry, and then here it means it's going to be data dot title, data dot title, and then here is also title, so it is data dot title. Okay, and then we have the add to cart. Okay, and then we have the price. Okay, let me just say it is here, data dot price. I'm assuming it is named as price. Let's see. Yeah, it is named as price. Okay, so we have the price, and now we have add to cart. We are going to see that later. So moving on, we should have some error, more especially with these images. The effect store like this one is not configured under images in Next.js. In Next.js, and in Next.js you can put, this is a common error in Next.js if you are trying to access images. Okay, if you are trying to access images that are from a different if you are trying to get images from some other sources. So I would want to show you here how they handled this. Okay, how they handled this, but you have to go to your config, Next.js config file, which is somewhere, Next.js config, which is this one, and right now it has no any configuration, but you're supposed to go and put there under images. Okay, and then you can just see images. Okay, and on the images you can define, I think, domains, and this one you can put the list of domains that are allowed. So there is this one, you can just also use this remote patterns. Okay, you can just say this report the remote patterns, but I'm just going to use I'm going to use the domains. Simply say image domains, and then you pass the list of domains that are being flagged. So you're just going to come here and simply copy this. They always give you what to put. This one, don't put this image itself, just put this here, as simple as that. And now restart the server. When you change anything in the config file, just simply Ctrl C. Okay, just say Ctrl C, and we are going to start again the server in a second, which is yarn dev. I'm using yarn. Okay, and then just starting the server. Let's just wait, and they can be many. Sometimes if you're using this random API, they can have as many places where they are getting the images, so you have to be patient with that. So just reload the page. Okay, I just reload the page. Okay, it seems like we had one, I don't know, so it takes some time. We don't have the loading state, but after some time the images are actually coming. Wow, that is really nice. So we have 5 products. Okay, and by the way, this is already responsive, don't worry about that. You have these 5 products being fetched from the API. Okay, let's just do it one more time, how data is moving. So the data comes and lands in the API folder here. In the API products, we actually fetch the actual products, they land inside here. And then this one acts as an API endpoint we are going to consume within our app. And this is for consistency purposes, so that if you have many data that is coming into the app, we know it lands inside the API. So we are having all the data landing into the API. Now, next we create the context. The context, you want to be able to share the data that we are getting globally. More especially, for instance, the products in this case. So we created the context, and we went through about 5 processes. The first step was to create the context using the create context hook from React. As simple as this. Create and export the context, that is the step number 1, and I put them in one file intentionally. You will see in other videos and tutorials, they create each of these steps, they create its own file, and I find it very confusing. Okay, just have one file like this one to understand it better. You have to create the context first. Step number 2, you have to create a provider where you state the state you want to share globally. Okay, so here you explicitly define the state that you want to share globally, like this one. Okay, so as like that, we want to share the products in this case, and even have the set products. So I went and I fetched the product in a second, but what was the second step was creating the provider, and then the provider will expose the products. Okay, that is nice. Step number 3, was to create a hook that will help us use the state in other components. Step number 4 was to integrate the cat provider in the app. Okay, so here we integrate in the uppermost component or in the whole app, and for us in Next.js it is the layout. So went to the layout and I wrapped the whole entire app with the cat provider. Okay, and that is great. So now in one of the things I did not talk about again, let me just explain again about it, is how we are fetching the data. Fetching data on the client side, we always use effect. If you want to fetch data on the client side, so on this use effect, I created a function in use effect, a function called fetch products. It is fetching products as normal as possible. The only different thing, it is using our endpoint here. Okay, and then it gets the data and it sets the data to be present in the state here. It updates the state here, and of which the state is now exposed globally using the provider here. And that's how when we go to any page, and for in this case we went to the page here, we called the products, we know they exist in the use cart. Okay, we exposed this one. So after getting these products, now we can start using them the way we want. Okay, so next now let's see if we wanted to add the cart functionality. So to add the cart functionality, we need first of all to have the state of cart, that is 1. 2, we also need 2 functions. For this time we need one to add to cart. Like if I click this one, it should get this product and add it to the cart, and then it should actually do something here. Okay, and by the way, speaking of loading, we should have the loading so that if we refresh, it should not just disappear like this, it should show us the loading of products. And let's just do that in a second. So since loading is very important to know when the loading is happening or the fetching, we can create it as here. We can also create it as a state. Okay, we can just go here and we say const. Okay, and we can say loading, and you have set loading. Okay, and is equal to use state as that, and then by default let's start it with true. So it should start with true, and then we can now actually expose it. Of course, when here, it means here it is loading. When you start, it is loading by default. When we get the products, we can say set loading to false, so we can stop the loading when this should be false. When the products we have gotten them, we can stop, and even here we can stop the loading, set loading to false. Okay, just as simple as that. And now since we need loading, we come and pass it in the things we want to expose, like loading, and then we can go in our page and we have the loading. So here you can get the product, comma, I can get also loading. I want to know, is it loading or not? And if it is loading, I can just go to products here, and I can ask optionally if it is loading. Okay, here I can show a spinner. So let me just say here, I could just go here and I cut this one, and I conditionally ask if it is loading. So you say if loading is true. Okay, if loading is true, what we could do at this point, we could show a div. Okay, we could just show a div with maybe h2 that says loading products, just like that. And if it is false, here it is false, then we can go ahead and show all these products. Okay, if it is true, it shows this. If it is false, then it can show these products. Let's see if we have any errors. So let me reload the page, and you can see loading products. Okay, so it is giving us now the state, which is really cool. Look at that. So if this was a spinner, actually let me just put 3 dots so that it is really indicating something like dot dot. Okay, so if I refresh, it is going to fetch loading products. When they come, it is set to that. Really nice. So those who are asking how to put the loading spinner, you can now go and look for like loading spinners. So you can just go and say loading spinners CSS. Okay, like there are so many loading spinners you can get online. Okay, you don't need even to create this yourself. Just simply go to any of these places here. You will get a spinner, and then that spinner you can simply use it in your project, like this one. You can integrate it in this component we have just put here. This can be a loading component. Okay, you just go and get any of these spinners or these ones, any that you want. Okay, you can just get it here. When you click any of these ones, they give you the code. Okay, they give you the HTML, and then they also give you the code. So as simple as that, you can integrate the spinner. I'm not going to do that, but that is your assignment. Try to put the loading spinner so that when we are fetching data like this, instead of showing these loading products, it should show the spinner here. Okay, having done that one, let's look at add to cart. So the first thing is we have to expose the cart globally, and to do that is very easy. Just go to the cart context and create the state you want to expose. Okay, so as you see, we created this state and we exposed it. I can say const cart. Okay, I can say cart, and I can say set cart, and I can also, it is use state, and by default we can have it as an empty. And quickly down here we can expose it by passing it here in the values that we are exposing. So I just come here and I can say cut. Okay, and show that it is working. Let's go to the cut page. Okay, let's go to the cut page here, and on the cut page let's get the cut. Okay, I'm just going to come here in the cut. So for instance, const, and I know cut is in the context, so I'm just saying get cut from use cut. So this is the function that we created. This one, I know this function is having all the values that we are sharing globally. So where cut is one of the items that we are sharing globally. So now I can go ahead and console.log cut. So at this point we should see it as an empty object. So if I go to cut now, let me just go to the cut page. Okay, let's say there is no errors. Okay, we have errors, so we have to make it use client. So go on top here and make it use client, because by default all Next.js 13 components are server components, so you have to turn it into this. Okay, so now if you check here, we're having actually this. Let me just check on top here, page. Okay, so we have an empty array of the cart products. Okay, so what you want is to add to cart. Okay, so if I go back to home here, we have all these add to cart stuff. So that means that there must be a function that is actually adding to cart. Okay, there must be a function that is responsible for when you click, it gets this product and then it adds it to the cart. Okay, so if you check here, that means that function need to be exposed also. You think about it, like on the home page, we can add to cart. On the detailed page, if this we wanted a detailed page for this each individual product, even on the detailed page, we could add to cart. That means even the add to cart function is one of the things that we would want to expose globally, so that from any page you can add to cart so long as you have the products. Okay, that is one thing that took me time to understand. Why were we adding this function to a global state? We are adding it to a global state so that if you are in any page, for instance a product detail page or a similar page or any other page where you have products, you could still add to cart easily by having this function globally. And to do that, you already have the add to cart function. Okay, it is not a very hard function. Okay, it is just simply setting the cart. We all know that. So let me just go back to our global context, cart context here. Okay, so in any of these places after the use effect here, like you can just go ahead and define the add to cart function. So const add to cart is a function which takes in a product, as we said. It gets the product and then it gets the cart. It does not want to remove the previous data. So remember, we have some data. We don't know if we have some data or not, but what we are very sure, we do not want to remove that data in the cart. So we maintain it. Okay, and then we create a new array, and then we add the previous cart items using the spread technique. By the way, if you don't understand this, the spread operator technique, just watch a video on my YouTube channel called the JavaScript Essentials you need to learn before diving into React. So this here, we spread this previous cart, which is having some items, we put them into this array, and then we add this product that we have here. So this function right now is adding to cart. The only thing you need to do is provide it with the product. Okay, now I will just come here. We add it in things we want to be globally. So if I come here and I say add to cart, so this function is going to be done, or it's going to be accessible globally. So if I go to the page where I need it like on the home page, I can actually get it here. Just say add to cart. It is in the use cart. I know that. Add to cart. Let me hope that is the same spelling. Make sure you have the right spelling. Add to cart. Just copy it here and go to the page, and let's grab it here. As simple as that. Add to cart. So we are using still use cart, and I'm getting all these things here. So to wherever I need it, actually just console it. Let's just say add to cart function. We can console it, and on the page, let me just go back on the page here. Let's see, maybe it has already loaded. Let's see, check on top here, and we have the function. Okay, we have the products on top here, and then we have the function here. It gets the product and is setting the product to actually to cart. Okay, I don't need to see that, but we have our function. It is here. Okay, then how do we add it here? Okay, how do we add it here? And we already we do not even need the cart, because we need only the function that adds to cart, and then the remaining it will figure them out. Okay, so while we have the product, we have a button inside the product. So we could pass this function, and this is very important actually. So we could just pass this as a prop, but we don't need to do that. You get, since this on this home page there is these components. This is very, by the way, this is very important you understand this. On the home page we are having these products, but these are like components. These are a product component. If you check, we have a product component here, just like this. We do not want to pass it as a prop. Okay, what I'm just going to do, I can go to the to the product component here, and then I can get directly here, I can get the const, I can just get the add to cart from here, add to cart. Okay, I can add to cart from here, and I can get from use cart. Okay, just like that. So I have now this function, I can directly use it here on this button, and I can just say on. Okay, I can just say on click. Okay, we can run this function. I think this is how it's supposed to be done. It's called add to cart, just like that. And let's confirm. Actually, I have it. You can just see this function somewhere here. On a click. Okay, this is remove, this is remove, but we can just actually just see how you have the add to cart. Okay, and then here where we are mapping product ID blah blah, you can see the button is taking the whole component. Okay, that is really cool. And now what, as if we have an error, you forgot, this is product, I just check, I forgot something. So here we need to put in the product, which is actually data, I guess, at that point. Not there, we just need it here as a prop. They're telling us we forgot something, I don't know where. Let me see, did I miss something? Let me just go there again, and I see. Let me see if there's any problems on line 6, add to cart const. Expected and got that. Okay, let me just go and check on this. Oh, we are having some weird thing here. Return is inside an object. Okay, so we're supposed to have this function just like that, and returning like so, and then on top of the return we can have this one, I guess. Let me just go on top here. I thought we could define things here on top like that. Oh, that is really weird. Okay, I think it's working. So we have the const here. Okay, we have the add to cart function, and this add to cart, we want to give it this data. As you can see, when this button is clicked, we need to run this function, and we give it this data. Okay, as simple as that. Like on a click, then it runs add to cart function, and add to cart function, we are picking it in the global state. So wherever we need this component, whatever we are doing, like it should be working. I feel like we should put a toast notification when the item is added to cart, but let's just try to see if we click. The function seems to be running here. Let's try to add like 2 products, and we see if we go to the cart page. So let me just go to the cart page, and we look at the console of the items that are inside the cart. Okay, let me you're not supposed to reload the page. Okay, it is producing the, do we have the cart? Yeah, we have the cart, and we have 2 items inside the cart. Guys, we have 2 items inside the cart. Look at that. Okay, we have 2 items inside the cart. So that means we can now go ahead and loop through and we have them here. Okay, so let me just go ahead to the cart page. We should add a notification and we could act the React toast. I think React, I don't know, React toast, hot toast, is it something like that? React hot toast, something like that. So npm, okay, there is this npm for React hot toast. I don't know, I've not been using it so much, but we can try to add it. If someone adds to cart, it tells us like a sweet alert that it has been added. So let me just say yarn. So you can just add this, since I'm using yarn, just on a new stuff here. I want to add this one. Okay, just add this yarn, add React hot. Okay, and then they just ask you, show you how to use it. You get the toaster, add the toaster to your app first. Okay, and when you click, you see you can notify and make me toast. You can pass some, they have the notify function, which actually is running this. Okay, so I'm just going to come here and see if it has installed. It is still installing. So we are going also to add it to the entire app so that we can have the notifications throughout the whole entire app. Okay, so let's see, it is still installing. Okay, meanwhile we have all our cart items. I can just go to the cart. I'll be mapping through them. So I'm just going to go to the cart. Okay, so to the cart page here, we can, instead of consoling the cart here, we can just have these products, and let me map them here. So I'm just going to come here. Sorry, I need one of the products. Okay, just cut this one and remove these ones, just like that. So I'm just going to see here, I'm just going to map, actually cut dot map, and here we have an item. Okay, and we don't need anything here, so get this, and I'm just going to return. So return this, and let's give it also data. So we can give it data, which is equal to the item, and we need also the key, since we are mapping. I'm hoping at this point you are not lost, because I expect you to be very conversant with like a map. Okay, so we can just map like that, and in fact let me put a question mark here if it is set. So this map here, you have the item. Sorry, so we have this item, and I'm passing it to the cart product. Okay, and I'm also just continue, and I can just go down here and accept this data, and then I can just go ahead and extract this data here. So for instance, here we put data.image. Okay, and then here we have, do we have like, did I remove all the things or what? So how was the card image showing? It doesn't feel like it has even alt. Okay, it's supposed to have also fill. Oh, the field is already there. Okay. And even old is already there. Wow. Okay, I think I removed a lot of things, I guess. Let's first close here, and let's put here data dot image. We have our, so we can have the field, and then we can have the alt here, and the alt is data dot title. Okay, just that is for the image, and then we have the title here, which is still data dot title. Okay, and then we have the price. Okay, which is data dot price. Okay, as simple as that. Then we have this remove. We are going to see that one in a minute. Let's work to make sure that the app can actually have that. Look at that, just like in real time they have updated, like in real time they have updated. They just go back to the shop, and if we load the page, it is loading the products. Okay, let's add this jacket, men's cotton jacket. Add that one. Let's just only add one, and if you go this side, you see on the cart page we have the item. Okay, so let's see this. The two things now want to show. Let's show this number of items in the header, and then another thing we also want to see, if someone adds to cart, we should have a notification. So I added this package, which is React. It is React Hot Toast. So to use it, I think we can just go to, I've not used it before, but I think you need just to bring it inside the layout. Okay, so we can say toaster. Okay, you can just say toaster. Okay, from React Hot Toast, and it has some props. For instance, you can say position and something like bottom right. Okay, another thing you can give it is the duration, so you can just say toast options, and you can pass in the duration, maybe 3 seconds. Okay, now that should be enough. Just these two, just put the toaster. If you go to the documentation, just to read. Okay, you see they give us this toaster and the toast. So the toaster is the component it gives. It can provide a bit toast. Then there is the toast itself. Okay, and I guess in the documentation they just give here the full documentation. You can add it there, and then they talk about the toaster and available options. You can see you have the position. Okay, and then you can even have toast options, whereby you can actually even change the theme. You get, so you have a lot of things you can pass in the toast options. And let's look at the toast itself. So the toast can also take in these things, but the most important, it takes in the message. Okay, there is why they have toast.success. If you want, for instance, the green thing, you can have toast.success, and there's toast.error. So I'm going to use something like this, toast.success. Let me just copy this. In our cart context, when we do add to cart, so down here, add to cart, it has all these things. Let's just also do this, toast.success, success-free. We have to say item added to cart, item added to cart. You can just say added to cart successfully. Okay, let's just see if this is working. I'm not sure. Let's see. loading products. Okay, so right now we have already loaded the on the cart page. Can I first go to the home page and let's say click one? Okay, we have an error. Toast is not defined. Let's get the toast here. Okay, just get the toast from the React toast. Okay, and you're seeing how I'm solving these errors. I don't pre-record the videos. I simply record at once, so that all the errors that are there, you can learn from them. So just click and add this jacket, and you can see here item added to cart. Okay, and it will take something like about 3 seconds and supposed to disappear. Nice. Let's add this t-shirt. Click it. Item added to cart. I like it. I like it. And you can see it is just very simple, but it is there. 3 seconds after, it just disappears. And let's go now to the cart page. We have our 2 products in the cart, and you can see them down here. Now what we want right now is to update this in the header, and since we already have the cart in the context, okay, we already have it globally shared here. Anything that is globally inside here, we have access it on any of the pages, and you can see the cart is one shared here globally. So I can simply go to the navbar and I can have access to the cart. So I can say const, okay, I can say const and I can say cart, and I can get this cart from use cart, okay, use cart, just like that. And then we can make this one a client component by putting on top here use client. Okay, let's go and see. So in the page, what we want with the cart is to show the length just here. We want to say cart dot length, as simple as that. Cart dot, just we need only this to get the cart, and let me say if cart exists, then have the length. So as simple as that. Okay, you really don't even want, because like if it is an empty, it should give us 0. So if I go back to the app, you see that like it has updated in real time in the header, and you see after putting the data in the global state, things become very cheap and like you are just enjoying. Okay, so like in the header we have all these things put. Now what is remaining on, even if I switch back to the home page, okay, sorry for that, but if you switch between the pages, there is no any problem. You will still have the items in the cart on any page you are on, whether you're on the detail page, shipping page, or any page. The data is going to be existing globally. Okay, and even in most cases, this data is fetched from the database. When we start building our e-commerce using Next.js, you will see that we'll be fetching that data from like MongoDB, and we set it into the API, blah blah, all those kind of stuff. Okay, but you see I can switch between pages, and you set the cart in the head is going to remain there. Okay, like on each page is showing us the number of items that are there. If I go back on the home, let's add the third one. Like if I click add item add to cart, and in real time you see it actually changing. Okay, that is really nice. Now the remaining functionality right now we need is actually getting the total here, which shouldn't be hard. We can first create a function that creates the number of items. We need 2 things right now. The first one is to calculate this total cart from which should add these ones, or these figures, and should come and tell us this figure. That is 1. 2, we could have a subtotal also for these ones. Okay, these ones you see here as subtotals. Okay, These ones we could have them as sub what? The subtotals. After you have multiplied the price of this jacket times the quantity, you should get that one. Now if you check on the items, if you check the stuff, it does. Let's see if it comes with quantity on it, and you can see there is no quantity. Okay, so we have to say by default right now we're not having quantity. In the future videos you will see how we'll handle maybe the quantity, like to increase the quantity, which is not really hard. The most hard thing we're seeing in this video was state. So what I want right now is to get these ones, these items. Okay, so let's just go and see, and we need them in the cart only, so that is very easy. So I'm just going to go to the cart page. Okay, to the cart page here, there is where we need total here. Okay, where we need this total, and we could just have the function inside here. And let me get the function. Okay, we are going to use a sum. Okay, so you can just get a sum, just like here. Let me see. Okay, I want to see the function. Okay, let me just write anyways the function just here. So I can just say const. Okay, const total. Okay, so we need total price or total cost, whatever, is equal to cart, and then we run a sum. Okay, we run a sum. Now this not sum but reduce. Okay, so this reduce is an array method. So reduce takes in two things. It takes in for instance the total. You want to become the total, and this is like the accumulative total. And then you can also have the individual item price or item subtotal. Maybe we can just say item subtotal. Like here you should have the item sub what? Item subtotal. Okay, or we could just have the item. Actually, let's just say item. So here we have access, since it is an array, we have access to the item, and we could return. Okay, we could return total. Okay, total, and then plus, okay, item, and on the item we need item dot price. I guess we need to add the price. So what it does is that it will continue doing this. It will get this total, and we need to give it the initial where it should start the adding. I'm just going to put a comma. Okay, comma, and put 0. That means that it should start from the 0. It will assume the total price to be 0, and then it will say 0 and we get it as a subtotal, and will add item price, and will continue until it finishes all the cart items. Okay, so let's just put here, not sure, maybe we can troubleshoot it. Let me just come put here the total price. Okay, can just like put total price. I see if you don't have any errors. Okay, and voila, and it is calculating 188. We can do the math using here the head. 109 plus 55, you have something like 165, then like plus this one 188. Yeah, this is really great. So you see, the function, as long as you understand it, you don't actually have troubles. First is to understand, you use the reduce method, and on the reduce method it takes in two things. It takes in the total, okay, or the accumulative, and then you also have the item, access to the item. So what you want is that you want to get the total, which by default is 0. That's why we are putting this comma 0. This one will act as the initial value they will start adding from, and then they say 0 plus, in the first round it will be 0 plus the item price, like the first item here, like this 55, and then in the second round the total becomes the 55. We add the second item price, and so forth. This one is the accumulative price. There at the end of the day, you have the total price, as simple as that. Okay, so that one is done. Now the remaining thing is to work on the remove this one, and simply here we need the ID of this item so that we can filter it out. So there are so many methods you can use here. You can splice it out. So we have two methods that are very popular here. The first method is filtering. I simply get the cut, I filter out this item. That is one thing. Two, I can also get the ID of this item, and then I use splice. Okay, you can splice it and also remove it. So you can use any one. Okay, so here I use the filter method. If you see this here, we can just say remove from cut function. So I'm just going to go to this cut context, and on top here where we have the add cut, down you can have also remove from cut. We need also to make it globally. Okay, we need to make it also globally so that we can actually be able to, and you see text in the product ID. So set product, you can see set product, set cut, not product, set cut to previous cut. We have to access all the previous cut. So what we do is we say previous cut. This is now the items in the cut, and we do filter. Okay, and the filter will access the item, and we want item ID not equal to this product ID. So it will bring all the items except the one with this product ID. Okay, and that would have set it to the new state. Okay, so let me just also make it global by taking it down here. Okay, let me explain that some people have not understood this part here, remove from cut. But remove from cut is a function that needs a product ID of the item we want to remove from the cut. As we said, when this set cut function has access to the previous cut, the previous cut is actually the cut items that are already there. And then on these cut items, we want to do a filter or to remove this item with this product ID we have passed in. So we say filter, and on the filter you always have access to the item, and now we can check if this item is not equal to the product ID. So meanwhile, in other words, we are saying bring all items except the item whose ID is equal to this product ID. Okay, so when we do that, now we just make this function also available globally. Now we go to where we want to use it, that is in the product here. So here on top, instead of only having added to cart, I can not in the product, actually in the cart product. So cart product here, this is where we have the button that removes. Okay, simply go to that component where you have the button that is going to remove, and on top here we can bring that. You can just say const, okay, remove from cart, remove from cart. By the way, make sure you are copying right things. From use cart, just like that. Okay, and then remove from cart. This function we have it now. I want to come and I pass it here. Okay, and remember it needs an ID, so I'm just going to say on click, just like that. Let's run this function just like so, and say remove from cart, and then we can pass the ID which is already on the data here. So we can just say data dot id, as simple as that. We are passing the ID of this individual product. Okay, so now let's just go and test if this works or if you have any errors. So we have to go back to the home page. The page has reloaded. We don't have any items. Okay, you could use the local storage to keep the items, and then you keep bringing back in the store. Okay, I would like, by the way, you can do it as an assignment. Local storage, instead of getting these items disappearing, when we add them to cart, from here the global state, let me show you what you can do. So where we have the cart context, here after adding to cart, where is add to cart? Here. After adding to cart, you can now get the cart. You could now say local storage, okay, dot set item. Okay, you can set now item, and you set it maybe cart, and you can say JSON dot stringify. Okay, you could just say JSON dot stringify and you say cart. So this is the line you only need. Set these items when you add to cart. It also sets them in the local storage. So when we are fetching here by default here, instead of saying cart is equal to an empty, you can set this one to be get local storage to get item. So you could just say local storage dot get item, and we are getting the cart back. You get? So you could do something like this. Okay, I'm not doing it. Let me just take it back. That is your assignment. You can actually try out. Okay, I'm just going to remove even this line, just like that. So right now what we want to see is if the remove item works, and let's also just do the toast. So here I'm just going to get this toast here, put it down here. You see item removed from cart, removed from cart, as simple as that. So let's just go and add some things in the cart. I will add this jacket. It is loading again. I'm just going to add this one item added to cart. Let me add another one, 2 items added to cart. And you can see there are 2 items. I can visit the cart. I have my 2 items. So I want to remove, click this item removed from cart, and you can see it instantly disappears. Okay, and you can also remove this from cart, and when the cart is empty here, you could just simply, and by the way, on the cart page, let me just go back to the cart page. These ones are cart items instead of list of products. Let me just say cart items, cart items. And what you could do, is you could also have the condition if this is empty here. If the you could just check the length. If the cart is empty, then you can just go ahead and say there are no items in the cart. You can also just do that. I'm not going to do that. You just say you can check if there are no items in the cart, and you show a text here showing no items in the cart, and you can check the length. Okay, you can check the length of the cart because you have the cart here. You can check its length, and when the cart items are 0, instead of displaying this div, you just simply show there are no items in the cart. Okay, now going to the home page, want to see if everything now is working properly. Let me add this item added to cart. It will take 3 seconds for this notification to disappear, and you can change that. You make it 2 seconds, 1 second, it's up to you. Let me add another one, 2 items, and let me just add also this thing. So I have now 3 items in the cart, and if you check here on top, you see your cart has 3 items. If you check, we have the total price calculated for us. We have individual items here. Okay, we have individual items, the price is calculated, and I can remove the item as simple as that, and I have even this notification. And by the way, you can put it on top. You can put this on, instead of bottom, you can put on top right or wherever. You can change the position. I showed you the docs here. You can just go and really look in the docs. Even the styling, I think there is a time we're going to jump into this toaster and we style it really to look the way we want. And then if I go back, you can remove this. And by the way, did you notice as you are reducing the items, even the price actually reduces? Let me remove this, and you can see the total price now, it adds only this item. Okay, and this is really cool. Okay, so that is the video. So before we close the video, please, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe so that this content can keep helping as many people as possible. You can share with your friends. Okay, I'm just going to come here and I show you my channel. Please, you can subscribe so that for you. So the channel is here. Make sure you subscribe so that we continue making the content. Welcome. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next one.